Well, welcome. Are you considering buying or selling your home soon? Well, this segment of Making Sense, we take a look at the current real estate market climate, and we've got some advice on what you should and what you shouldn't be doing if you're ready to either buy or sell. Justin, thanks so much for joining us. All right, so what are the trends when we look at home prices in Michigan?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, right? Because so often we'll talk to friends and family, or at the credit union here, we have members coming in. They're wanting to know, they find themselves in this position where they're looking at buying a home, and maybe it was part of a plan. Maybe it was an opportunity that came up, and they're like, "Oh, we don't really know what's going on." So, they're just looking for some input. So it's kind of nice to uh, have a few tidbits and just know what's going on in the world around us when it comes to housing. Um, just some raw facts, things that are happening. State of Michigan, hold on for the shocker here because this is a dollar amount. The median price for a home in the state of Michigan is pushing $285,000.
Hmm.
Now, that's the median. There's
Right,
there's higher and there's lower, right?
sure.
But home affordability is definitely a topic of discussion that a lot of people are having and trying out how to finance, how to afford homes. Now, that's the median price for the state of Michigan. Reports are telling me, there's a lot of information out there on the internet.
Right.
So you have to look at the sources. You have to kind of balance some of them out. In the northern lower Michigan area, the
Okay.
median price they say is less than that. But boy, we have some very high rent districts also. Um, our bedroom communities are where you're going to find some of your best affordability,
Sure.
versus being in some of the more populated areas that are, very close, even walking distance to um, major attractions, hospitals, food downtown areas. So definitely expect to see higher prices there. The other thing that it may be surprising, may not be, home prices are very dependent on the number of bedrooms within that home. And what's been happening, home prices have increased. If a home has 5 bedrooms or more, it's increased 45% in price.
Wow. Wow.
Four bedrooms, yeah, 4 bedrooms is up almost 10%. 3 bedrooms is up 21%. Two-bed homes are up 24%. Um, these are month over month, so don't get too scared on that. But just know, when you're looking for, that family home, the more bedrooms, obviously, generally the more square footage. All this makes common sense, that the bigger the home, the more it's going to cost. But nevertheless, trends to be thinking about, as a buyer or a family is looking and trying to determine what's going to meet our needs, you're definitely going to end up paying more for those homes with more bedrooms. Maybe they're not quite as common, but the single bedroom homes, they are out there. Those have dropped in price. They're down about 5%. Clearly
Huh.
just not as much demand for something set up just that way. Um, but there's always good news, in the home buying realm here also. Um, what's happening lately, 36% of home sales have sold under asking price. So
Wow.
that's a good thing, right? It means that there's some negotiation room in there. Another 36% has sold at asking price, and only 29% have sold above asking. So, with that, we could make a claim that buyers do hold a little bit of leverage in the transaction with
Well, and
36% selling under asking.
Justin, when we look at and you talk to realtors about this, the last 8 years, 7 years, it's been crazy, right? Like we
Mhm.
saw the prices kind of go up when COVID and post COVID, but we thought it'll not correct because that suggests there was something wrong, but it will shift back. And I'm not sure that we've really seen that a lot. We have not seen house prices drop dramatically, right?
Right.
And so, But it does sound like with that, especially with that statistic of what are houses selling for? We all heard anecdotally for years, well, they had 14 offers and it's sold for $200,000 over the asking price. It may sound like maybe people are pricing things differently, but maybe some of that insanity has faded away a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. And it kind of surprises me with the one bedroom because rent is so high for so many people that are living in one bedroom apartments that you would think maybe to get out of that cycle, if that's something they choose to do, maybe that one bedroom is appealing.
Yeah.
But maybe it's hard to get out of rentals now because you're not saving up for a down payment because you're paying so much in rent. All right, how about so that's prices. Is there a lot on the market? What's the inventory look like now?
It looks like the inventory is going up. In northern lower Michigan, the report I have shows inventory was up 15% in May over the prior month. So 15% more listings on the market in northern lower Michigan. Another interesting fact there is that for the same area, I'm being told that 57% of those available homes are selling within 30 days. So there's a quick turnaround here, right? There only 9% of the listings are staying on the market longer than 90 days. So there's reasonable inventory on the market, but maybe they're not exactly what a buyer is looking for. But if it is, acting quickly seems to still be the best strategy because 30 being sold within 30 days on market is a good turnaround.
Yeah, no kidding. Where are for that tip of the for the northern Michigan portion, where are those home buyers coming from?
There's still the good majority is still coming from within the region, but
Okay.
there are definitely enough out of town buyers to make a mark. Specifically, I'm seeing reports that buyers originating from the Chicago and Detroit markets is still pretty strong. And the majority of them are looking at some of the more densely populated areas, especially a lot of them get involved in looking for opportunities in the short-term rental market. So when you think of areas such as Traverse City, Boyne City, Petoskey, Charlevoix, those are pretty hot markets. And we're seeing buyers out of the Chicago and Detroit markets coming up and buying homes in those areas.
When COVID hit and then remote work hit, we heard a lot of stories about people being like, well, I no longer need to go to my office in San Francisco, Denver, Dallas, wherever, so I can work wherever. So I'm going to move someplace gorgeous that we all love. And so they're going to move up here. But you do, when I talk to realtors, they do, an awful lot of these homes are being purchased to be used as rental properties. All right. So if we're going to break this down into two parts for the sellers out there, what should sellers know about the market right now if they want to move their product, right? If they're motivated to sell, what do they need to know?
Well, I think that they should know that values are remaining strong. In the northern Michigan area, there's demand here. People are looking for those opportunities. So it's, even if we could say that the market has cooled a little bit, there's still a market, and it all depends on how you want to get started. Some sellers will say, I'm going to start high and we'll negotiate from there. Others are interested in starting a little bit lower, reasonable, see what offers come in, because there are still homes selling above asking price. I mean, you're not tied down to any one strategy. Of course, I always recommend that you consult a trusted advisor, a realtor, a certified realtor, to help you through that journey. If you don't have experience with it, it's not easy to take on alone. Certainly can be done, and don't want to turn anybody away from doing that if that's what they're interested in looking at doing. But there's a lot of wonderful professionals out there that can help you do it, and do it in a way that you get that support, and it's very much worth the while And then, as you're a seller, think about, presentation is an awful lot of the package. I mean, having a home with good bones, if there's something wrong or not just quite right with it, I mean, that stuff's going to come out in an inspection, everything. So be upfront and forthright with the condition of the home. If there's improvements that you can make, curb appeals always a great thing that can play in your favor. You make it look nice, people are going to naturally be drawn to it a little bit stronger than if the grass and weeds are growing out of control. So you just put that a little bit of thought and effort into it, whatever you can fit into your plan as part as you go to market that. And then, if you happen to have vacation rentals or lakefront property, they're very appealing, especially in those high demand markets. But even in some of our outskirts, I mean, there are so many beautiful lakes and streams up here in northern lower Michigan that aren't part of a really dense metro area that are just what people are looking for. So I think there are definitely buyers, plural, out there for nearly every property type. So I mean, if it's something people are considering, there's no reason not to test the waters and look at listing your home these days.
So that's good news for sellers. It may not be as unprecedented as it was a couple of years ago, but it sounds like, I mean, a couple of years ago, you could sell anything, right? Like you did not have to cut the grass. Like you did not have to do those things. As maybe some of those potential buyers have gotten out of the market for whatever reason, or the inventory has changed a little bit, we may be having to go back to a little bit more of put your best foot forward if you're a seller.
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right, so that's the sellers. All right. So sellers, you guys earmuff up. Don't listen to this next part. What do the buyers focus on if they're in the market to buy now?
Focus on the fact that there is more inventory available. I mean, the inventory has been on the upswing. The market's still competitive, and I mean that could be said for buyers and sellers. The key thing here, buyers, is remember it's still pretty fast paced. Be prepared to move. Mortgage rates are relatively stable. I know they're not at a place that many of us recall that wasn't too long ago, but they are relatively stable. The Feds kept the rates the same today when they met, so no swings in either direction there. Having a pre-approval, I'm going to say, is a must if you're requiring financing for a purchase. So make sure that you have that pre-approval ready to go so that are eligible to get in and look at that home, eligible to make an offer. That's still going to be a standard practice. And then, as you're looking at homes, think back to what I said earlier about the bedroom size of the home. As you go up in bedrooms, expect those prices to be a little bit higher. As you're comparing homes, that's going to play a factor. Everything from the location to the condition to the number of bedrooms and amenities in that home are going to play factors. When you look at the inventory list, if you do a search for homes that are on the market, you're going to be hard pressed to find many that are really close comparables. Probably, I mean, each homes are unique. Isn't that why we build them? They're very unique in many ways. So, increasing inventory. It's a fast-paced market, so that's kind of nice because you can get transactions done. I mean, pretty quickly. It's not. There was a time long ago when an offer could be put in, and that seller's just going to sit on it and say, I'm going to wait and see if more offers come in. It's the pace is really sped up. So I think that's nice for buyers and sellers.
You touched on something there, Justin, and it's something that we have talked about in the past about being ready to move, getting that pre-approval. When time is of the essence, and also when the market is the way it is, where you may not have a ton of choices, or things may be a little bit more expensive than if you haven't bought a house in a long time than you're used to, or if you have a 3% interest rate mortgage. How important is it that we come talk to our financial institution to get that pre-approvals and so that we know what we can afford before we even go out and start looking or falling in love or dreaming?
Well, I'd say it's kind of the same thing. You've got a tire that's going really bad on your car, and do you want to get the car to the shop and get that taken care of before it blows, or
Yeah,
do you want to let it blow and be on the side of the road? I know that's a weird analogy, probably,
no.
but no, if it's something that's on your mind, if it's in your future plan, it's never too early to start talking to your bank or credit union, your lender, because get that pre-approval, know where your credit stands, have a plan. Do you have the money down required, or are you prepared and eligible for a no money down situation? Know those things, because
Yeah.
with this fast turnaround, with 57% of listings selling within 30 days, you want to be able to put in an offer that is competitive, an offer that you believe you have a chance, if this is the home that you're really hopeful of getting,
Mhm.
and you want to know what that's going to cost you in the end. It's really tough to fall in love with a place
Yeah.
and then either find out you can't get it, or you've got a roadblock that makes it look like it's going to be really hard to bring it to the finish line. And so your bank, credit union, and mortgage lender, they can all help you be prepared, uh, best prepared to carry that out really well.
Well, and that's good. That sounds like good advice. And that's one of those things where if the last house you bought, we're not talking about if the last house you bought was 40 years ago. Things have changed. We're talking about if the last house you bought was 10 years ago. Things have changed. So
Yeah.
there's an awful lot of people that may be saying, well, maybe I want to sell my house and buy a new house. If that was 10 years or so ago, you may be looking at a parallel move. You may not be adding bedrooms based on interest rates and the way the pricing of houses is. So yeah, talk to your financial institution before you probably even go shopping, because you'll be able to narrow that down a lot. Any other interesting insights right now in the housing market?
Couple of things that I came across that I found interesting. Um, the baby boomer generation, they are currently dominating both the buying and selling of homes nationwide. Baby boomers make up 42% of overall buyers and 53% of overall sellers. So they're generationally, they're by far the biggest um, player in the
In the
residential real
housing?
estate scene right
Wow.
now. Um, Came across renters are seeing modest increases. I'm sure there are plenty out there that would like to argue with me on that, but the data that I'm seeing says single family rentals, the cost of renting is up about 3% in this year so far. Multifamily units are up only about 2%. So,
So
I
rent
know
is not climbing as fast as we have seen it in recent years.
it doesn't appear to be, which I found interesting. But like I say, I'm sure there's plenty of that's an aggregate average of
Right.
things. I'm sure there are plenty of individual circumstances that would disagree with that, or
Yeah.
have experienced something quite differently. But that's a national trend that's being reported. And then finally, it doesn't relate directly to buying or selling, but what about all those people that currently own homes? And there's a tremendous amount of equity. Home equity in homes is really what's fueling middle class wealth right now. And
Okay.
across the United States, over $35 trillion of wealth is held in home equity. That value that people hold in their homes that's unencumbered by a lien, or what it's worth above and beyond what they owe on
What
it.
they owe.
Yeah. So just some
And,
interesting
and
facts out there. It shows that home ownership has a value, right?
right.
It's a value that sits there for um, hopefully either future generations or future use, future leverage. But 35 trillion is quite an interesting number.
That's a big number. And I imagine that as people are either choose not to move or unable to move, or it doesn't make financial sense to move, they're building up more equity because they're staying in their houses longer, right?
Yes. Yes. Very much so.
Wow. That's interesting. That's a huge number.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of zeros and commas, right?
Right.
That is. All right. So if somebody's looking to buy, I assume if someone's looking to sell, they probably are also going to then have to buy. You got to live somewhere, right?
Right.
First step, come in, talk to your financial institution, get that pre-approval so you know what you can afford, what you should consider, and so that you are armed with all the tools in your toolbox so that you can go fall in love with your next house. Good advice?
That's right. Use the resources that are available to you.
All right, Justin, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Good luck to everybody out there is trying to buy or sell a house. And we'll catch you for the next Making Sense.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.